with me.
Well, here we are again.
Seems like we've done this before, 3 days in a row.
And I've got mountain counties tomorrow, so
Oh,
I had
boy.
to cancel my trip up north.
I was going to say, you said that's live.
It's all good though. Yeah, we've been meeting live.
Nice.
Yeah, I commute with Scott Ratterman. Morning, Abby. I think I see Eric here.
Morning.
I think we're all here.
Morning.
Morning, Ron.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Okay, Melissa, we're ready when you are.
Okay, good morning. I was just trying to help Mr. Allen get onto the meeting. He's having some difficulties this morning. I apologize.
Oh, thank you.
I still don't see him. If we'd like to get started, we can, and I can just hop off in a second and try calling him back again.
Okay, all right, we can get started, and then when he comes in, we'll probably still be on his items, but okay, well, first of all, let me call a meeting to order. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see. All right, Director Ringen's here and myself, so that's the chair and committee members. So I would like to call our water committee on Thursday, June 24th, 2021 at 9 a.m. to order. And we have a member of the public that has brought a couple of items to our attention to discussion, and he sounds like he's not able to get on. So in the interest of the flow of the meeting, perhaps we can, if Ron, if you're okay with this, and if everybody's okay with this, that we move over to initiate. Oh, hang on. No, we can just start with number 1.
That's correct. He's not till item 2. It looks like he's logging on now.
Okay, yeah, I knew that, but anyway, it's been a long week. Okay, yeah, let's start with item number 1. Our treatment plant tour. A discussion regarding scheduling a tour for the board of directors and public for the Sonora Water treatment plant.
Good morning. Thank you, President Malin, Director Ringen. Director Ringen, Dawn had mentioned you guys began talking about a tour of the Sonora Water treatment plant with the board a couple months back. So that's something I look forward to facilitating with the board, and it looks like the public is on here as well. So with COVID guidelines in place, I'd be happy to do that with another staff member or 2. And confirm a date that we could get there and look at some real water making going on.
Sounds good. I think in my discussion, well, I've been out there numerous times, and I was sort of resistant to TUD getting buying that property and building the new Sonora water treatment plant. But after Mr. Perkins and I went out there and took a look, because I'm, being in construction, it's like, what do you mean you can't fix that? Of course you can. There's enough room on that piece of property. You can make it work. But after going out and spending a fair amount of time on the property, it became really clear to me that there's only one way to go, and that's to start all over and do it right, and stop trying to put a Band-Aid on something that's bleeding to death. So that would be what I would hope would be the basis for a tour, so that everyone can get on board and understand why we have to go through this huge effort and expense in order to put in that new treatment plant.
Absolutely, I agree, 100%.
It's just my 2 cents, but that's what I was hoping would come out of it, because I don't think some of the directors really, well, I know some of them never even seen that water treatment plant. And by the way, I do want you to demonstrate to us how you program the timer.
Yeah, it's set. It's working, and I'd be happy to, but we just need it to work a little bit longer. So
Check in.
yes.
I'm sure glad he asked you this time, Trevor, not me.
Yeah, thank you,
Yeah.
Ron. I just want to add, since we have the Carollo estimate for about $45,000 worth of improvements, that may be a real good time for us to, you probably already thought about all this, but make sure that the board is, while we're there looking, doing our due diligence, that we're really looking at this, how to extend the life of the footprint with that condition assessment. So I'd be very interested in seeing some of those health and safety priorities that are being fleshed out in that 45,000 condition.
Absolutely. Yeah, that would be the premise of the tour. You're going to see that firsthand, both the inner workings inside the buildings and things like the said basin. You'll physically see that going on, and yeah, look forward to it.
Okay, good. Thank you, Trevor. Yeah, Ron.
So, and how much estimated? I mean, nobody has a crystal ball, but how long will it take? Is it envisioned it's going to take to build that new treatment plant and have it up and running? How many years?
I'm going to defer that to Eric or Don.
I wish I knew, Director Ringen. It's a good question. It's a question that we all internally keep asking, because it directly impacts what we invest in and how long we anticipate the existing facility to last. I guess the question really, or the answer really, is funding driven. If we are able to secure a USDA funding package or an SRF funding package, let's say probably a year for design and permitting, and then another 2 to 3 years. So it's very similar in scale to the wastewater project. So I think realistically, we're looking at 5 years minimum, and more likely something north of 5 years. I don't know if
Okay.
Don, if you agree.
Yeah, I mean, I can't disagree with you. My heart wants it to be south of 5 years, but just reality and seeing what we've gone through, and it's logically going to be north of 5 years, I'm sure of it.
Yeah, the only reason why I asked, I mean, that was what I thought the timeline would be, but I think that needs to be pointed out during the tour, that's why those fixes at the old water treatment plant have to make it last at least that length of time or longer. Otherwise, we're going to be in deep trouble.
Yeah. I had some technical difficulties logging on here, but so did I miss something on the timing or the date of the tour? And would that be post the the assessment condition by Corolla or prior to? We didn't discuss that yet?
Sorry, no, we haven't yet, Don.
Okay.
We haven't gotten an
Sorry.
update yet.
What do you think, Director Ringen and Director Balin? Would it be logical to be after the assessment so we have more information, or before?
Well, my personal feeling is that it should be probably after, so that you're speaking with fresh, good information, and there will be, from what I understood, coming out of that Carrillo event, that they even will have cost estimates, correct?
I'm sure there'll be ballpark estimates, you know.
Yeah.
you know, yes. I mean, for sure.
So when are they coming out, Carrillo?
So we're still working on a date for the kickoff meeting. That'll be virtual. At that point, then we'll have the stages set when they will make the site visit, the initial one. I don't know on any cost estimates at that time, but we're looking at several weeks to a couple months timeline, I think, until we can maybe nail down some of that info.
Now, do they understand that they may not be the ones doing the work? I mean, it seems like I just want to protect the the coffers here. You know, I know how, you know, that can go. So I just want to make sure that they need to compete for the repairs just like anybody else. So they don't necessarily think this could be something extra, if you know what I mean, just to keep the integrity in the process. That's all I'm saying.
Absolutely. And great point. And of course, we'll do that. I have a question for Director Balin and Director Ringen. Would you like to be a part of these initial meetings with Carrillo? You are the water committee, so it seems logical that you should be part of this process if you want to be.
I'm good as long, you know, I read the scope of work and the scope for the kickoff. It seemed real clear to me, the expectations of the product that we want. It seemed clear to me that we would be, you know, that staff would be doing their due diligence. So I guess that's a long way of saying I don't need to be there. I'm okay. If it was a pre-op meeting involving cultural resources, that might be something else. But I really trust you guys in making sure that we're going to get some deliverables. So I'm okay. But Ron, you're the expert here.
Well, I don't know about that, but I certainly would like to try to be there. I mean, I think it would be real good background information, and you know, I think that would be a real educational process.
Perfect. Thank you.
So are we looking for the okay, Carrillo will look at it through their eyes with the district, and then we will, Trevor, you'll lead the board out there with the condition assessment tour. And I'm then thinking that might be when the days are a little bit shorter. Like, are we looking August, late, August, September for the board?
Yeah. Sorry. Yes. So I'll try and get a timelines estimate where we can get to a point where, yeah, we're looking at, I would strongly believe, a couple months out with those figures from Carrillo, and then that would be a good time to go ahead and get it on the calendar.
Great. Eric, do you want to add anything, or Dawn, to this discussion before we sort of tidy this up with a recommendation?
I don't really have anything to add. I'm just, for clarity, the date of the tour is to be determined, I would guess, right?
But not in July. We know that. After July, to be determined after July, pretty sure.
Sure,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. So that the board, so that we're making a recommendation to have Trevor, continue. We've decided that Corollo will do the virtual kickoff ahead of time, and that the board tour will be to be determined. And we were all agreeing that a board tour of the condition assessment will be of value, and that the public is welcome in a compliant way, but it will be probably after July.
Correct.
Okay. Melissa, is that kind of tidy it up for you?
Yes, I have it. Thank you.
Okay, anything else on that item? Okay, I think we're good. Thank you, Trevor.
Thank you, President Malin.
Yeah. And so we have a guest, I see. Is this Michael? Is he able to hear us now, Melissa?
He is online. Let's see here. Okay. There we go.
Good morning. Good morning. This is Michael Allen speaking, and I've been involved with quite a few conversations with the TUD recently. And first, I'd like to speak of my personal issue. Then we'll go on to issues about what I think can help the residents of Solsaville and Sonora. So is that okay with everybody?
Yeah, thank you, Michael.
Okay. I am an extreme water conservative. When I take my shower, I turn on my shower water. I rinse down, I soap down, I turn off the water, soap down, wash my hair, shave. I turn the water back. I'm a former Vietnam veteran, so I know how to conserve. This is the way I lived. I use probably 20 to 25% of my water allotment that I'm charged. It's not because I'm trying to save money. I'm trying to save water. This county is in deep trouble with water, as we know. I had a water leak, not anything that I knew about, and now TUD is charging me, because of that water leak, $500. I'm on a fixed income. I'm retired. But I don't get any credit for all the savings I've done. I asked TUD for all the water usage since I've owned this home. I still haven't received it. The thing that really bothers me is that when the water leakage was known and TUD knew of the water leakage, it took them 4 to 5 days to notify me. Why so long? TUD came out yesterday and turned off the valve. And it has to do with the gardening. My meter is turned off. I don't water my garden at all. But there was a leak out there. And now TUD wants to charge me $500 when I have saved so much water. And I'm asking the board right now to knock that bill off. I still haven't received the bill, by the way. I still haven't received the reports from TUD. I'm a retired CPA. My background is I was a navigator on S2s in the military. I have my commercial pilot's license. I was a licensed CPA until I retired. I'm a law school graduate. I have a master's degree in photography, and I I'm very educated. This is just unconscionable that I save. Then they're going to bill me $500 for a water leakage when they knew about it, but they didn't report it to me. Does everybody understand the hypocrisy in this?
You know, we're listening to your concerns here. I may have a few questions, but I do want to be out of respect. I want to, Michael, make sure that you continue with the other item as well. Okay, we've got the leak item. I'm hearing some feedback somewhere. It's don't know exactly. Don't know where it's coming from here.
It's not from me. I don't hear any feedback, and my phone does not feedback. I'm on a landline. I'm not on a cell phone.
Okay, well, I'll deal with. Good, thank you for saying that. Okay, would you like me to just address the leak issue a little bit? You want us to talk about that?
Yes, let's
Okay,
discuss that first.
Okay, and our policy, which is we do have a good neighbor policy where we work with an individual if there was a leak, and we have a leak adjustment program, and maybe Steve can talk a little bit about that, but TD's pretty good about considering somebody's circumstances. So Steve, do you want to, we don't know the situation. We don't know how Mr. Allen came up with a $500 bill. You haven't seen your bill, but it's 500. Is that what you think it might be?
I was told by TUD that I was being billed $500 for the leak, for the extra water for the leak. I was told by TUD that. I haven't received a bill. I've received nothing, not a zip,
Okay.
not a nine. And I haven't received, I asked for all the usage since I purchased this property. I haven't received that. I also received, let me back up. I asked to receive the water usage from the last meter reading until the leak was, TUD came out, because they knew there was a water leak. Well, I'm burning out a lot of water every day. TUD knew it, but they didn't call me. They didn't tell me, but they knew it. And that's what really upsets me. Not only does it upset me because they told me that I'd be paying $500, but water conservation, they should have notified me immediately.
Well, okay.
But I wasn't.
So all right. So we have a situation, and I appreciate you bringing it to our attention. Some leaks are not as noticeable, but I do know that in the past, because I've had direct experience with this, that typically you do get notified that something's out of sorts. So let's see if we can.
I wasn't notified.
Okay.
I wasn't notified. They knew it. They knew my water. I had a water leak, but I was not notified.
So maybe, okay, so let's hang on here, Michael. Let's talk about typically what we do, because we do have to look at the whole county and be as fair as possible, and that we're not 100%, but we do have a good neighbor policy where we do consider adjustments for leaks. So Steve, can you please comment on that? I don't want to put you on the spot, Steve, but
Well,
Steve is our finance officer, Michael. Okay.
Hi, Steve.
so thank you, Director Balin and Mr. Allen. I am well aware of your conversations with our staff. I'm well aware of your situation, and Director Balin, I really feel this is a customer issue. We are definitely addressing it, and we'll respond accordingly. What I'm hearing Mr. Allen is asking for is for the board to make a special exception for him personally And this isn't, the leak policy is not an agendized item. I can go over the leak policy if everyone would like to do that. But again, what I'm hearing is he's asking the board, which I believe would have to go to the full board, to give him a special accommodation, a special discount of some sort. As far as his concerns and complaints about how he was notified, again, I can go into our system of how we look for leaks, how we address leaks, what we do there, if that's the board's choice. But I was kind of looking here and I'm curious, he says he has some recommendations for other customers. So whichever way,
Yeah.
President Balin, you'd like us to go, I certainly can go. But Mr. Allen, I know you keep referring to TUD as they did this and they did that. Well, the board is TUD. All of us here is TUD. So we are here
I understand
to
that.
listen to you, take your public comments in there, and I will follow up with you as far as anything you haven't received or you don't understand outside of this committee meeting. But again, Director Balin, I'm happy to go whichever direction you like.
Okay, thank you. And because I do know that there is a customer service avenue for adjusting leaks, and I feel like all of us as a public utility, all of us own it here, all of us that are on this call, that if Mr. Allen, if you can work with our customer service and look at and go through the leak adjustment policy. It's a policy I don't feel comfortable right at this moment until we exhaust those remedies to go forward with a special exception to the full
Okay.
board. I'm not comfortable with
Can you
that.
please email me the proper channels to do this rather than spending a lot of the board time on the phone? Can you send something via email to me? And Barbara, you and I spoke on the 21st.
Correct.
And in my notes, I said, wonderful conversation. Barbara is a 1969 graduate, fun to talk with, because I really did appreciate our conversation. And you sounded very educated, very concerned, as I am. You know, I came up here. I'm a good guy. I take care of you know, water conservation.
Right, we get you.
That's funny. But
Yeah.
And
you know,
Mr. Allen, I don't mean to interrupt, but I just want to make sure that perhaps we can get you your history of your bill usage. Steve, would that be possible to email?
Yes. As I said before, anything he's requested will be
Okay.
provided. We have spoken with him numerous times. I will personally provide him with the established board adopted leak adjustment policy for his review. I don't want to go into his personal situation or circumstances here, you know, to create any arguments or defense. But again, I'm hearing him asking the board specifically for an adjustment for him personally outside of the scope of board established policy. So that's something for the committee to consider. And then as soon as this meeting's over, I will email him the policy itself and his history as well.
yeah.
So the bill usage history.
By the way,
Yeah.
if I can interject here, I have not received a bill for the additional 500, so I don't know if it's really coming. I was told
That's
that I was
right.
being billed for 500.
That's right. So we'll get you what's on policy. Folks can say what they want, but we will get you your data because the data is the data and the policy is the policy. So that's a good place to start. And then also, I just want to remind you that the bill is, our water bills are every other month. Okay, so you got to divide that by half. And we talked about that. And
Yes, we did.
so, and it was a good, enjoyable conversation. So we've got, I think if we're okay with that, let's go. And I see your hand up, Director Ringen. So before we move to the billing procedure, I'll take Ron, your question, and then we'll move on to the next item of Mr.
I don't have a
the
question.
other-
I don't have a question. I don't have a question. It's just that I don't know how we can properly, legally be discussing this thing right at the moment, because this was not on the agenda. I thought we were going to be talking about conservation and billing.
Well, we are, and this is, we're going to redirect this to staff. It is part of the billing problem. He hasn't received a bill for 500. He thought he would, and so we're just resolving this. It's okay.
If I can interject something here.
Okay.
Barbara and I spoke about some things that I feel that could really help Tuolumne County, the TUD. And, first of all, the rates are flat rate up to a certain amount. Then after that, they are flat rate above that amount. Me being a mathematician and a CPA, I look at things as not straight line. They can be logarithmic. In other words, does everybody understand the difference between straight line mathematics and logarithmic mathematics?
We got a pretty sharp crew here, so go ahead.
Okay. So what I'm suggesting is that when people go over their allowed usage, that it's not straight line. In other words, it doesn't go up, per gallon at the same rate. That the more that people use, then the rate goes up logarithmically. Because a lot of people waste a lot of water. They're watering their gardens and their trees and making their acres of property very beautiful, but they're paying the same straight line rate. Well, when the water consumption goes way up, then they should be charged logarithmically more per gallon of usage. And right now, it doesn't work that way.
Well, let me interrupt you if I may, because we have a long history of state guidelines on what we can and can't do. And this would be a good phone call offline so that we don't tie up the meeting too much. But I appreciate your ideas. Here's a couple of things, just a little bit of background. We used to encourage people to use more water. We actually incentivize people to use more water. All that has changed. As you and I talked about the base rate, and we're going into your item number 2 here on the rate structure. We are very restricted in how we can do this. We have other water committees that have been sued for too many tiers in terms of tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 in water breakdowns, for an example, for hotels. We have looked at how we can do this, and we don't have a lot of room here. As you and I talked about, the base rate covers is a large part of our revenue for employees. So we really can't do a lot about that. So the structure has had a lot of thought and a lot of legal opinion in it. I'm not discouraging your ideas, even though I may sound like it, but at this point, there's not, it is what it is until we actually open up a formal meeting on this to then have this agendized for the full board to discuss.
Well, I'd love to be there, if I can. I'm a mathematician, retired CPA. I know this. I was a director on many, many boards in Silicon Valley. Very, very sophisticated boards. I'm a numbers guy. This is what I've done for a living all of my life. The other part of our conversation, Barbara, that we spoke about is that this water is going downhill and it's being recaptured downhill, and they're getting the benefit of our water. And you and I talked about how that can be negotiated. They should be paying something for that water.
Yep.
And
Well,
that is
all in agreement there, but that's off our agenda. I got to be real careful to keep us on the agenda. I'd be glad to talk with you more, Michael, offline. And we want to make sure that if you can qualify for the leak adjustment, let's get to the bottom of that. Steve will send all your usage history on to you. We have your email address, and we do need to move along to the next item. But I would love to talk to you more with our interim general manager on why we cannot give rebate. Because we're a public agency and we're not for profit, we're not investor driven, and we don't have investors, driving the process. So we have to be extremely transparent, and we do not want to shift by having a rebate, which sounds like a good idea. We can't shift it on the backs of other ratepayers. I know a lot of
no,
this.
I'm not.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not talking about rebates. I'm just talking about rate structures. That's all.
Okay.
And if the board, I'm a very, very intelligent guy in mathematics. I taught calculus at Cal State Hayward. I know math. I've been a director on many boards. I know business. I know business more than probably 90% of the people. I'm willing to help. That's all. I'm willing to help with the mathematics.
Well, thank you. We will definitely in the future open up our rates for a discussion, and we're happy to have you there. So with that, Michael, I'm going to need to go to the next item, and I appreciate your concern, and very enjoyable to talk with you. But in the interest of the public meeting, we've got a lot of other folks here listening to the meeting as well and interested. So we need to continue. So I thank you for being here, and we'll work on your resolving the leak issue and your bill history. So thank you.
Thank you. You take care. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye. All righty. So I think we have that one battened down pretty good. Thank you, Steve. And we'll get that history to him and the leak policy. So and I think we're clear we cannot go to the full board with an exception. We have to exhaust our remedies, and I think Mr. Allen understands that. Okay, so next item is the review and discuss possible changes to the water rules and regulations, section 14, the raw water service.
Excuse me, President Balin, was there any recommendation on item number 2?
Just work to resolve Mr. Allen's issues at staff level.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Is that okay with you, Ron?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
That was most of that conversation was not on the agenda. Should have never been allowed.
Point well taken. Okay, item number 3. Since some of the due diligence of a board is to review with staff policy from time to time and see if there's any adjustments necessary, it seemed to me that it was time to review the raw water service, and that's regulation number 14 of our water rules and regulations. Excuse me. Hang on. No. Shh. It's okay. It's okay. All right. Sorry. I think that it would be good if we formed a working group to take a look at our water rules and regs, number 14, raw water, because it seems to me that it needs some help a little bit in water conservation, saving our treated water. There's not a lot in here that talks about the importance of saving treated water by, let's say, putting people offering non-potable water for treated water uses. The other thing is it's kind of weak on fire flow, and it would be nice to incorporate some board direction or policy direction for the encouragement of the use of raw water for fire flow, as well to augment our treated water fire flow. And I know that's going to get into the next item, but what I'm proposing here is to form a working group at the committee level and take a look at where we can review the water, raw water service. And the working group can be this committee, or it can be a working group ad hoc, a board member and staff to come up and with a draft to discuss in committee and then make a full board recommendation. Any comments on that?
Well, I have a few. I think it's very timely, past timely, to be doing this. I know in 2015, early on, I pressed for going through this water rules and regulations, and especially because we were getting deep into the drought, and then too, the board that the prior board, the one in 13-14, made some changes in this that I did not agree with, and still don't agree with. So yeah, I think would be real good deal to go through this thing and straighten it up and have it become more current to today's issues.
Okay. You know, being around the community, it seems to me I've been picking up a dialogue on, there's a kind of a renewed interest on folks asking about how we can conserve water, wanting to get, you know, the use of raw water, especially the ones that live along the ditch system. How can I get back on again? You know, the treated waters, I feel guilty, et cetera. So I agree. I think it might be a good way to conserve the treated water and be able to, you know, get some folks back on raw water. The other thing that folks ask me about too is, why is it $16,000 just for an average person to hook up, and $8,000 for treated water hookup? And so we may want to get into that one a little bit too. I know there's reasons why, you know, like you say, Ron, it's not an agendized item, but it at face value, you know, people wonder about that. So perhaps we can take a look at that closer too. Sorry, guess we've got some activity outside here, and my dog's a little bit in competition with the mic.
I am having technical issues. Can anybody hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, you can now. Okay. So yeah, I've been trying to chime in a couple times, just struggling here, but yeah, I agree. Director Balin, I think it's a good idea to review this policy and others from time to time, and I'd be happy to do that with you or with you and Ron. But in the early stages, if it's okay to save some staff time, maybe it's just the three of us, perhaps, or whatever you prefer. But I definitely want to be a part of the early stages of this discussion.
That sounds good. It's good. It's a good way to do our due diligence, see if there's other ways we can conserve on our treated water, and certainly make raw water available for fire flow, really define that for folks that aren't familiar with our system that are going to come up here to fight fire. That sounds good. Does that sound good with you, Ron? The three of us?
Good. Yeah, definitely. I mean, plus, Don's been with the organization for 21 years. He has the inside knowledge, which would be really helpful as we weed through some of this stuff, so that we get it accurate and makes sense. There's no sense in spinning our tires on making changes only to find out they're not going to work.
Right.
I agree. Any other comments?
I don't know if you can still hear me or not, but yeah, I'd be open to a meeting. We can just check our schedules and have a meeting. We'll get some ideas. I'm sure there's going to be a need for some data between now and the first time we meet. Maybe I can collect some of that data. I know we've talked about some of that stuff. So yeah, it'll be a kickoff meeting, and we'll get some direction going from there. And if I need information from Eric, either Eric or Steve, I'll get that information from them.
That sounds good. And then we can have a working draft then if we do have another water committee meeting, then we can review the policy revisions before we
Sure.
bring it up to the full board for recommendation.
Yeah, and I think we've all talked about this in one way or another, but Steve and Eric both have other revisions they've been working on for quite a while, so it's timely that we're doing this now, so good.
Okay. Yeah, and we might want to revisit the ag portion of this as well. So, okay.
Sure.
So, all right. So we'll just continue with that in committee. And any other comments before we move to the next item? Ron?
I would hope that when it comes back for further review by the committee, that we have, as we have today, Eric Hall, Matt Nolte, and Trevor Cowden there to be involved if they have some input that they'd like to give us. That might be helpful, because they're all highly experienced and they all have certain tasks that they take care of, and they may be very, very helpful to us to get this really correct.
Okay, that sounds good. So we have no recommendation, but I will report out on our discussion here.
Okay, so no recommendation for this item currently.
Currently.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Barbara, this is Nathan Rosasco.
Well, hi there, Nathan.
How we
Welcome.
doing?
Fine.
Hey, so at what point in time, I see you're gonna go through this policy all through the TED and the staff. What's your plan on getting it out to the general public? So, I mean, we're the end user, so we need to be able to have some kind of an input in it. So how's that gonna work?
Okay, well, I have an answer, but Ron had his hand up first. So go ahead, Ron.
Yeah, Nathan, this committee can't make, will not be able to make this be law, let's call it that, for to go into the water rules and regulations until it comes before the full board and the public, and it get reviewed at that time. So make sure that you at least keep an eye online as to what the committee, when the committee sends it up to the board, or keep an eye on what the board agendas are. And when you see that come up, then that's the time to be at the meeting.
And that's fine. I just, just to go to a meeting without having some of the information ahead of time doesn't cut it. So I would like as president of Farm Bureau, we want to have, at some point, we want to get the policy before the meeting. Okay?
Okay.
How does
In
that
other
work,
words, what
Barbara?
you're recommending to bring to the meeting.
So, okay, the water rules and regs are public policy, and I will send you the water rules and regs.
Okay.
I will find out because yes, I agree. We all want to be prepared for the next working meeting. And you guys come forward with your ideas on redlining that policy. And I will make sure that you have a copy of that. It's public to work off of. You're going to see different things that we're not going to see.
Correct.
And so if we can list your comments, we'll make sure that you have that document ahead of time and that you're notified of when we go into the meeting. And we are more than happy to also meet with you with Don Perkins and sit down and discuss your concerns ahead of time as well.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing, Nathan, good morning. Yeah, I'd be happy to, between now and whenever the next meeting is, if you have any kind of questions or concerns, you know, I'd be happy to sit down and talk with you at any time. So just get a hold of me. I'm at extension 524.
Okay. All right. That was my question.
Thank you.
Barbara, can't hear you.
Bark, bark, bark. No, just kidding. If we're okay with we've got a plan going for the water rules revisions and review, and glad staff will be all over that. And number 4, if there's no further discussion on that, then we'll go to the review and discuss California Environmental Quality Act and Historic Properties Management Plan on the programmatic treatment of ditch maintenance. So I've been real concerned about that for a while. The purpose of a programmatic treatment plant is to be able to have some do's and don'ts on what you can and can't do on the system, on the ditch system in terms of maintenance. And the idea is to be really efficient, which we are, cost effective, which we are, but also recognize that the days of search and destroy, since the state has made a determination that heritage is of value to us, we also have certain compliances that we need to do in order to continue to fix those leaks, which is what our mission is. But nowadays we have to fix the leaks in a way where our heritage can still tell its story. So that's not hard to do. You know, the Erie Canal, the Ohio Chesapeake Canal, the Farmer's Ditch in Colorado, they all do this. They all fix the leaks still in a way that their heritage is still intact and can still portray its sense of time and place and workmanship and quality and the events that led to the International Gold Rush. So you guys get the history. So my concern here is that it's time that we review how the Historic Properties Management Plan is working or is not working. And also we are obligated through the secret to monitor how this is going from time to time. And I've been hearing a few complaints from raw water users that some of the maintenance practices are causing higher turbidity. They happen to be ditch domestics and irrigators, and they're concerned about the issues upstream that may be affecting their water quality and how hard their systems have to work to treat the water. So I have questions about whether this whole thing was actually brought to the State Office of Historic Preservation and what their comments were. So that would be something for staff to dig up. And essentially it'd be good again to use this committee. I'm recommending what I would like to see out of this is to take a look at the new impacts from things that we didn't know were happening along the system, and we need to make adjustments for those and revise the documents if appropriate, you know, it's just time, I think, to review the compliances and do a monitoring program, which is what we said we would do. So I'd like to use this committee for that work and work with staff to answer some of the questions that I have in terms of my need to do due diligence on this.
Excellent. Yeah, excellent. So maybe Melissa caught it, but, one of the recommendations was for staff to dig up information. I wasn't quick enough to write it down. So if I can get a repeat on that, or maybe Melissa caught it.
Would it be on the historic properties management plan compliance? I mean, I think it's just timely we all sit down and go, what is this? What are we doing? Are we doing it
Sure.
the right way? Is it working? Is it adding impacts that we didn't know about, like this turbidity issue? Could it be causing additional, emergencies that we haven't turned, that's the whole purpose of mitigated negative deck. We need to check in, are these mitigations really working on behalf of the community?
Okay. Got it.
Ron.
So, I really agree with you on this. But I like to maybe take it one step further. Not trying to make work for all of this, like we need some more, we don't. But from what I understand, there's been a lot of changes in personnel in the ditch crew and so on. And if there's going to be new people coming in all the time, at least for a while, maybe to make Eric Hall's job a little bit easier is if we could come up with some sort of, I hate to make it sound big, but some sort of handbook of procedures, so that when you see this issue, then you would use this procedure to take care of it. You see this, this is something, that's how you're going to take care of that. And that may take some of the work off of Eric Hall's shoulders, because he won't have to explain every little detail. He can hand out to a new hire this handbook and tell them to take it home and study it.
Well, Ron, it should be in a way easier than that. I mean, if a lot of these treatments were on a GPS, GIS system, then when you walk the ditch and you come to a historic dry mason rock wall that has significance as part of the story, you click on that and it absolutely tells you what you can and you can't do. If you come across sensitive habitat for an aquatic species or a listed species that's been identified, you click on that and you go, okay, we've got to provide this cover. We've got to, be able to do, it should be pretty simple and we may discuss ways to make it simple for crews to be able to click on that spot and have a call out box go, this is what you can and can't do here. This is a good leak. This is wetlands. This is a bad leak. Fix it. Here's your constraints. We may have that, but I don't know if it's being used. And like you said, training would be really appropriate. So
I like that, because you could include sensitive species, like this is what a pond turtle looks like. Don't step on it, and that sort of thing.
Yeah. It is the cost of business, but the good news is that there's a lot of restoration money out there. I mean, that's another component of this, is to be able to, once we've identified that these areas need to be able to keep talking to us about our history, it becomes a larger issue of preservation, where the current administration in California are very interested in giving us money to offset the ways that we may have to do maintenance in a special way to protect the cultural resources and still conserve water. So I think there's opportunities out there. Here's an example. I mean, in the height of drought in 2015, the executive ordinance that came out, the EO, the executive order, said that all the fountains have to dry up unless they were potentially eligible for the National Register of Historic Places. Then they were allowed to have water in them as mitigation. So we're actually in a good place. I think if we change our relationship and reimagine the system and how we can bequeath it to the future. You know, the fact that we are just caretakers of it, and we're just passing it on. We really don't, it's not up to us to destroy it. So with that, it sounds like we may want to do the same thing, just sort of have a working group. I'm sure the Eric Johnson, Eric Hall may want to be involved in this and figure out how we can see how it's working.
Right. I know Eric Hall is on here, but Ron, you brought up some good points about training and new staff. In fact, here recently, we've asked Greg Day to come back and give us some assistance. So I'm not sure if you all knew that, and Eric might chime in and tell us how well that's working out.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's working very well. I feel like it's been a positive for the department. It's only been going for a few weeks now, but Greg's getting back into it. Things are coming back because he's been gone for a few years, but it's been positive.
That is terrific. That's really great. You know, I always wanted Ab Bolter to come back. You know, he really knew his stuff too from the old PG&E days. So that's great, Eric. Thank you. Yeah. And Greg too. And I were really awesome. That's great. So he's like an annuitant or something like that?
Yeah, he's working 2 days a week. And then he's riding around with the guys that I have now and just kind of basically going over the system, explaining things that may not have gotten explained to them and why we do it this way and not this way, and, you know, work on customer service. It's just a big overall, a bigger picture for the whole ditch system for the guys that are here.
Good.
That's great.
It is
Good.
great. As you know, Eric Hall's been pulled in many directions the last 5 or so years. So having Greg and his knowledge and his background to come in and help is going to be a huge benefit for Eric and his department moving forward, especially as we look forward to what's likely to happen here in the next couple of years. So I think we're very fortunate to have Greg back. And if you get to see him, he doesn't look like he's aging still. Looks good.
Good. Everybody takes about 5 years off immediately as soon as they retire. It's just the way it works. Okay, great. Well, so then we don't have any recommended action. We'll just continue working on this as a work group, and we'll set up a meeting, Dawn, to go over this myriad compilation of the mitigated deck and the historic properties management plan. So we'll take a look at that and see what kind of training we can flesh out of that too. So good, very good. So with that, there won't be any, we'll report out on this in terms of our committee, and Ron too. Okay, any other discussion for item 4 before we move to item 5? Are we all good? All right. So the last item we have is review TUD's fire flow standards and requirements. And you know, some of this is backlog of clarifying questions in order for the board to really do their due diligence or be able to speak out in public. I was always under the impression that we were required to provide water for fire. And we're not in the firefighting business, but we are required to provide fire flow. So that's the difference here, is we're required to provide fire flow, which is different than providing water. And I would like this cleared up because I do personally believe that it's important for this community to be able to count on us and not have us fall short because there's a technicality. You know, when there's a fire, I mean, the bolt cutters come out. I mean, it's all, yeah, and I would like a little less anticipated chaos and really come out if we have to develop a policy that really clarifies our role in making sure that all our raw water is available. I know it is kind of in a de facto way because you're just going to use it. When you see water and you're going to save your home, you're going to use it. But I think we need to define our relationship to the community regarding raw water and treated water. We have to use treated water, but what if there's no pumps? What if all that goes away? Then we have gravity. And, I just feel like we need to discuss that and see what we're obligated for, but also what, in terms of a community, it just doesn't make sense that we use all our treated water on putting out the fire and then we got to boil ditch water. I mean, we just need to clarify our priorities. Put it on GIS. So like I had mentioned, I think to Eric Hall, any Bravo crew can come up here, and we're not putting them in harm's way when there's a dead end street and there's all kinds of burning timber collapsing and they don't know where they are, and the ditch could be right there and they don't know it. So I just want to get clear. So we're doing our part in providing fire flow. So Director Ringen, did you have anything to add on that, or did I pretty much hog it?
No, I do have a couple things I wanted to add on. That was one of the big things back in 2015 that I was moaning and groaning about with water rules and regs. And so I think too, as we, well, first of all, in those days, we were finding that we had tanker trucks filling up at fire hydrants and then delivering that water to people with tanks on their property that had bad wells and things like that. And I think that what I would like to see is some very stiff penalties if you get caught opening up a fire hydrant and taking water out when you have not come into the office and gotten one of the meters and worked it out to where you're doing it legally. And especially as we're going into this drought, we don't know where we're going to be. Hopefully it's not going to be as severe, but it ain't looking too good right now. The other thing is that I'd like to see us, as we review this, come up with a policy that is widely and sternly distributed to the fire departments, that they go to the raw water first, always, and then to the treated water to fight fires, unless that doesn't make sense time-wise and otherwise. But I'm real concerned if we have any kind of major fire, I'm afraid we're going to empty the tanks fighting the fire, and then we're not going to have anything to drink or cook or whatever with. So anyway, just a thought.
If I can add, because of the, to the agenda item, help me figure that we have standards. I mean, and this is a case in point, what we want to do over in Tuolumne is resize pipes for fire flow. Is that correct? Because we are required to provide adequate fire flow. So we're talking at that point, we're talking a pipe.
Yeah, let's see. I'd like to get that cleared up. When you say we are required to increase pipe size for fire flows, I know we do that. We're doing that on the reservation in Tuolumne today, and plan on doing more of it in the future. I think we did do that for two reasons out in Willow Springs, right? One, it was a soaker hose for a water main, and two, was very undersized. It was 3 inch or so. So out in Willow Springs area, we increased the size of the pipe out there for two reasons. One for fire flow and one for, leaking severely. So, if we're required, does that mean, and I don't know the answer and I don't expect anybody, well, unless Matt's on here, he might have the answer, but are we required in all areas to increase our mains to meet fire flow? Okay, go ahead.
No, it would be, not to increase the pipe, just to provide fire water for fire flow.
Gotcha.
Are we
Gotcha.
required to provide water for fire flow? And I don't know the answer to that.
Eric or Matt, you want to chime in and help us out here? I know this is one of those questions that comes up from time to time over the years.
I'll try to make sense of this, and I'm going to apologize in advance that it may not be that clear. The answer is really that it depends. There's a few different occasions where we're obligated to provide fire protection or water for fire protection. One is that we do charge for private fire service, and that's in our rate structure. And that is when, let me give you an example. Across the street, we have a storage facility and they have a private fire line with their own private fire hydrants. And so they pay the district, a monthly charge for private fire protection. So in that sense, we're charging for a service that we must provide. Another example pertains to developer agreements. When we enter into a developer agreement for a subdivision that's a discretionary permit, meaning that the county has conditioned that subdivision or that development, one of the conditions is fire protection. And when the developer comes to the district and says, are you going to serve me? It's implicit. It could be more explicit, but it's pretty well understood. We're going to meet the fire protection requirements that are listed in the conditions that the county places on that development. So those are a couple examples where I feel we are obligated. But generally speaking, our understanding, and I think Dawn has mentioned we want to get more clarity on this, and the board does as well, is we have a bunch of other systems out there that currently don't meet fire protection standards. There isn't an obligation, our understanding, of the district to necessarily upgrade all of those systems to meet current standards for fire protection. But when we have an opportunity to do that and increase pipe size, and it isn't a great financial burden on the district, we certainly do that. I mean, we aim to try to do that. But in terms of fire hydrant spacing, the county ordinance has about a 300-foot fire hydrant spacing requirement. We don't, on every upgrade project, we don't put fire hydrants at 300-foot spacing. It would be very costly for the district, but that's certainly the prerogative of the board. If it decides that we want to do our own internal policy that all TUD internal capital project improvement projects will meet or exceed fire protection standards, then we can do that. But we just haven't ever gotten that direction directly from the board. So we do put fire hydrants in, but we put them at strategic locations that, Matt could speak to, low points in pipelines to allow us to flush. We put them at intersections where there may be a logical place where a valve may close and we may want to drain a line or something like that. So that's the extent of our fire protection. Hopefully that helps.
Thank you, Eric. It was helpful.
It is helpful, and it also points out the fact that TUD actually is larger than just TUD, that we provide benefits for this whole community so that we will be able to provide fire flow and have customers pay for treating that water and it hiding behind a fire hydrant, fully charged hydrant, to be able to provide fire flow for somebody who may just be a sewer customer, or no customer. And I just think that I'm just concerned that as a board member, I'm not really clear on the extent of our responsibility and the extent of CAL FIRE or our local fire protection. If they're saying, well, I thought it was up to you to make sure that all these hydrants were in working order, and we, you know, and what's our budget for that? In talking with Tom Trott, now they're a community services district, he says they are obligated to provide water for fire protection, fire flow. And so I think this might be a Jesse question. And if we are not obligated as a special district to provide water, then I think we need to just to say, well, it might be a good idea then to make sure that water is available, even though we're not required to. This is important. This is our community. And I think TUD needs to be able to put that, if that is what the board, maybe the board's going to say, well, we don't have to, then, you know, what are we doing? We're paying all this, you know. I just want us to have this discussion because this is my community, and I want to be able to represent what's in our hearts and minds and our love for our community. And if that is that we make a conscious determination that no, we do not have to, but it is the right thing to do. And so, but because we have ratepayers that pay for all that treated water that we throw on a fire, then we may want to prioritize the water because we've decided it is important to give that to our resource people to put out fire. So I just want to clarify what our role is in providing fire flow. And if it is obligated to provide that water, then we need to sit down and figure out what water. If it isn't, if we're not obligated, then we need to make a determination that we want to or we don't want to. So that's a Jesse question, and maybe we can come back to this committee and continue the discussion.
I think you're right. It is a Jesse question. And just prior to this meeting, I emailed you some old data that Abby and Eric were able to dig up from Jesse somewhat on this topic. So in your email, you'll see some information that will at least help us before we go ask Jesse and the same question again.
Ron, were you going to say something?
No, I think you covered it. There was a copy of the letter that Dawn sent out this morning, which you may not have seen. It's from 2007 that went to Tom Sesha, who was asking apparently some questions right around that same area that you've been alluding to. And I didn't, because it came so late, I didn't really get a chance to read it in depth. There's a fair amount of information there from Jesse, but it has some really good points in it. But I think I agree with you. It's probably time to go back to Jesse and get some updated input.
I agree, Ron. Even though that was just back in 2007, it's a very different world today than it was then. So you're right.
You bet.
You know, thank you, Ron. In really being forthright in pursuing water rights for this community for all time, you know, long after we're gone. Part of what's motivating me is to make sure that we go over how we are using our water and do that due diligence so that we are being as prudent as possible. And it's just I think a really good exercise to clarify some of these fuzzy areas, especially when the ratepayer is paying for them.
And you know, also too, Barbara, this could be a small component or one of the reasons that we should for sure acquire the PG&E infrastructure and water rights so that we can guarantee water for fire well into the future. I mean, forever.
Yeah. And even get FEMA money to rebuild the system too. Yeah. Okay, so for this item, what we've decided to do is review our current literature and maybe get our heads around, boiling this down to the sauce. Are we obligated or not? And I haven't looked at the Jesse stuff, but let's work to get current on that. And this may occur on another agenda item. So we'll report out to the board, the full board, that that we are working on this item. That sounds, you know what I mean. So so no recommendation at this time except to continue to clarify this issue.
Okay, so for the recommendation for the committee, just the committee had no recommendation, but will continue to review?
Yes.
Okay.
Our obligations regarding fire flow, right?
Okay.
To get a legal opinion. We're going to get a legal opinion on it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and before we go away, I just wanted to say to everybody, I'm really proud of us as a collective, okay, as a public agency, and involving the public and making the public feel listened to and valued. And we may not get a decision that that the public agrees with. I myself may not be happy with my water bill, but we're trying to advance forward for the good of this committee, and I mean for the good of the whole community. And so philosophically, I just feel appreciative of everyone that we are courteous and that we practice decorum at all times. And so I appreciate that. Yes, we may stray and well, that we stray off the agenda totally, but yet it's hard to capture when a public member says, I want this on the agenda, what it actually really is. And so we're doing the best we can. And I just want to thank everybody for their patience and their decorum here. So thank you.
Well, thank you for saying so, Barbara. I agree with you. It's been, I'm very proud of us too, to be able to work in this way. So thank you for saying so.
Yeah. Okay. So with that, any other, we've covered our items.
Well, I just wanted to say in closing that sorry we didn't get a chance to get into the conversation on conservation because I came armed with my water bill, and I was going to go one-on-one with him as to who was using the least amount of water.
Well, so I have to say, I think Dawn is going to send around this article from Mountain Counties, and if you for all the board, but it's very, very, very insightful. It's a long explainer. It shows where water moves to wealth. I mean, if you're in a larger metropolis, you don't feel the drought. And I think that Ron, exploring conservation is a larger issue because none of that water, we want the water to stay in our county. And so we need to maybe come out with a proactive, some proactive leadership as if we do move into drought regulations, that what everybody notices is that they let everything that they have die. Doesn't really make any difference. We don't use that water that we save. We don't own that water that we're saving, and we don't own the storage that water's being saved in. But yet we let everything die. And then as soon as you go down to Modesto, oh my gosh, it's 10 degrees cooler. There's a municipality. So I would like all of us to really rethink conservation. We can't do anything about the base rate because that just covers our fixed costs. But we can rethink how we want water to work for us in our county. We can even rethink, you know, that you can say that wetlands are working for us. You know, Phoenix is working for us. It's all working for us. But it is very expensive here. And I'm sorry, Ron, if you would like to show us your bills, you can, if you want to. None of us are like it. This is part of the reason we live up here too. We just don't have the economy of scale. So we'll keep working with everybody. So, including you, Ron. Okay. But don't let your fruit trees, you water those, okay? Yeah. All right. Well, on that note, anybody wants to add anything? No?
Good meeting though. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you guys. Thank you very much. And, you know, when we get back online in September, I just might have to bring my dog into TUD. You know, we're going to miss parking. So, kidding.
Right.
Okay, everybody have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Bye,
this
everybody.
adjourns.